Welcome to dbDOSv 2.0. This is going to be the instructional help for how to use dbDOSv 2. All of the new features, functionalities, and capabilities that we're bringing to market with this new product. We're really excited about where the advancements have been made. We really think that for most people, this is going to be a great release, and we, of course, recommend that everybody upgrade to the latest version of dbDOSv 2. Now, the way this is going to work, I'm going to go over how the system is kind of architected, and then we'll get into the specifics, and then we'll get into some of the really cool things that you can do around the output from the system. So let's go ahead. Now, if you first started off, you normally would have installed the product. You've already activated the product or went through, you got your emails from DBase, basically stating that you had a license key and an activation password. You put in your data, so you've got dbDOSv 2 installed on your machine. I have dbDOSv 2 signed onto my machine right now, and I'm going to go ahead and double click it. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is that it comes up as dbDOSv 2, and we have a brand new interface for developing and managing your configurations, and it's called dbDOSv 2 Command Center. So we're pretty excited about it, and there's a couple of design things that we wanted to get into this one, and one of the big ones was that we wanted to have the separation between what we call command line configurations and executable configurations. We wanted to have them sorted because a lot of people, by the way, the average number of configurations that people use with dbDOS Pro or dbDOSv 1 is about 5. So we wanted to kind of separate those out, the ones that are going to take you to a C prompt and run from there, or a drive prompt, I should say, not just a C prompt, and also the executables. So if I want to run that executable. Now the difference is you go into the command configuration and it's a DOS session. You're going to point to some drive with some DOS applications, some DOS data, and you're going to work with that data in a session. When you're done with it, you're going to exit out of that session, or you're going to have it so that it automatically exits out if it's an executable. An executable configuration is really straightforward. You click on it, and it basically starts the application, not just take you to the prompt, but takes you right into the application where you can interact with it. And then when you exit, it can either close it or it can go ahead and you type in exit when you're done. So it gives you great flexibility on that. The next thing we wanted to do is really try to make it as logical as possible is what's the number one thing that people are going to do in this product. Probably the number one thing overall over the lifetime of dbDOSv 2 is going to be the run configuration. What does that mean? Well, if I come over here and I click on Kathy Test and I hit the run, it's going to go ahead and kick off DBase, and let me slide this back in here for you so you can see it. And so it's just going to show you, it went ahead, loaded up DBase for me. I'm going to come out here and say exit. And because she has an exit on the end of that configuration, when it leaves the product, when it leaves that DOS application, it sees that exit and it closes down that DOS session and returns you right back to the command center. So everything we've done around this product is to make it so it's as convenient as possible. It's been streamlined. We tried to take and hide any of the advanced stuff that you think you might need. Normally when advanced things happen, you're going to be talking to somebody from DBase. And so let's go over the outside. So as we were talking about before, we talked a little bit about the configurations. And we have the command configuration. So let's go ahead and let me just do a quick DOS utility one, and let me run it. And let me slide it back into here. So as you can see, it loaded up some drive. I'm going to do a dir/w to put it in there. And let's say that I want to do something like pretzel. And so I'm going to come in here and type in PEPR, and I'm going to hit the tab key. And it has replacement, so it knows what's on the drive, and so you can start typing it in, hit the tab key, and it's going to find what you're looking for. And then when you hit enter, there's what pretzel does. It's pretty exciting, I know. I'm going to go ahead and hit the escape button on that, and you notice that we're back at the C prompt just like we were before. Now, since we're in this, I might as well go over the one part of this. If you click up here on your little icon in the top left-hand corner, it has the engine graphic, and you click on that, you'll see that you can close, you can do an about, you can show the notes of any bugs that are outstanding, you can copy all the text to Windows Clipboard, you can copy the screen text to an open file, you can go ahead and paste from Windows Clipboard into dbDOSv 2, or you can increase and decrease your font sizes as you need. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. When you're done, you can come in here and you can just type in the word exit. Now, as that's what a command line configuration looks like. We've already looked at what the executable configuration looks like. So those are the two things that's going to happen, right? That's that. Now, this has also in the top left-hand corner another icon. If you click on it, you'll see that it says the about. One of the big things about the about is that if you're talking to somebody from DBase and they say, hey, what are you running? It can come back and tell you, hey, I'm running Windows 7, I'm running dbDOS 2.0, I've got the Intel Pentium processor, and it can kind of go from there. That's going to be very helpful for us giving support to customers that have something really funny or something that's specific or complex to their situation. Now, once we get past that, we get over to the configuration administration. And when you look at this, now notice there's something that you've noticed, hopefully, the flyby help. Okay, you've noticed that there's some flyby help on here. So if I put my cursor on it, it'll pop up a little suggestion about what's going on. And that works all over the place. It basically, if you use it on these processes, it will show what the description is, let's say for DBase 3. So it'll understand what's going on with that process and display that for you. Now, the number one thing we think that people are going to use after they create a configuration is going to be the run configuration. So you click run, and as I said, almost instantaneously was it back up there and running. And then I'm just going to hit the exit key here. So that brings you back and forth. It's very easy. It's very straightforward. So we've talked about that. You can either minimize or you can close. Now, we do have a new feature that I wasn't really excited about when we first started looking at it. We had a lot of discussions with it, conversations around it. But one of the things is that when you go up and hit the little red button, you get a question. Do you want to leave right now or do you want to stay? Well, if you hit no, I don't want to leave, everything stays that way. But we've engineered the product in such a way that we don't have to worry about when you close down the project. So at any time, if you just want to close down the project, you don't want to deal with anything, we have the no questions asked exit program. It's down the lower right-hand corner, click it, and it's gone. No ifs, ands, or buts, no questions, no anything, it's gone. Now I can tell you, from my standpoint, that I love that feature. I like the fact that I can go in there and just hit it and not have to say, yes, I want to exit. You know, we put it over on a side so it would be out of the way. So you'd have to physically go out there and hit it to change it. It's not just something that just happens willy-nilly. So after you run a configuration, the next big thing is probably going to be, you know, the new configuration. And it's really straightforward, okay? Now, there is one thing before we go into the new configuration I do want to hit on, is remember how we had those flyby help that gave us a little bit of insight here and things like that. Well, if you don't want to see those yellow boxes come up with suggestions and explanations, there's a little blue icon down in the lower right-hand side, and it has like a little line set up in there. If you click that, those lines become blank. And now you'll notice when I put my cursor or my mouse pointer on any of those locations, none of that stuff shows up like it was showing up before. If you want to turn that back on, you just click that again, and everything turns right back on for you. So again, the interface itself is to try to make you as comfortable as possible, make it as easy as possible for you to be successful right away. And I'm really excited that we've got the creating of the executable down to 3 basic steps, okay? So let's go ahead and hit the new configuration. The first thing you should notice is dbDOSv 2 automatically expands with the wizard. So no longer do we have another pop-up and another window and another thing. You're in where you're at. Notice that everything is locked down right now. I can only do help, which is what we're listening to right now, or I can go into new config, which is what I'm already in. So I have a new configuration. I have the ability to go prior, but there is no prior step because new configuration is the first step. I can go next, but if I do without filling out a name, it's not going to let me. And then I have something called abort. At any time, just like the no questions asked situation, the no questions asked exit program, you can come in and click the abort. And it'll automatically take you back to the command center just like it was before, in the right size with the time and everything showing. Or you can go back in and you can click it. Now, here's the interesting part. Let's say I put in a name, let's say test. And I'm going to put in a description of the word test. No big deal. I'm going to go ahead and hit the next button. Now I get to this button, I get to the next step, and I want to go prior. I can go prior. I can go next. It'll take me back there. Or no matter where I'm at, I can hit the abort button and it'll clean it up, take me back to where I was supposed to go, and go from there. Now, there are times when we're creating a new config, and when we create the new config, we get out here and we're going to do some more stuff, and all of a sudden somebody goes, hey, let's go to lunch. You just hit the no questions asked, and boom, you're out of there. You don't have anything to worry about. Nothing's corrupted. Nothing's out of the ordinary. We've really tried to make it so that you can get out of dbDOSv 2 at any time and very quickly. So let's go ahead and do create a new configuration, and that configuration is going to be around FoxPro. There you go. There's something different. So let's go ahead and say we're going to call FoxPro 2.6, and then I'm going to say help, and we're going to go ahead and hit the next key. Now, if you've used dbDOS Pro editions or you've used dbDOS V1, then this should look pretty familiar to you. It's pretty close to the way we always do it. We found that this works really well for most people. The biggest thing that most people have a challenge around is thinking that it's a loop, that you're going to define one drive and then you're going to go to another drive and you're going to define it. Then you're going to go to another one and define it. And you're going to go through that process as needed. Now, just as a side note, we can handle in the interface, this GUI interface, we can handle up to about 10 different drive assignments. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say we've never had in the 10 years so far that many drive assignments. Not saying it's not going to happen, but it just doesn't. So we kind of limit the interface to about 10. That's going to give, for 99.999% of the people, that's going to take care of them. But for that special case, if we need to, we can do it programmatically outside of the GUI. And so we can add it if we need to. So we can add up to 26 drives. That's how many drives Microsoft has for us. So we can use all of those if need be. So the first thing you're going to be asked to do is what is going to be your virtual drive for this configuration. And I'm going to just use the C prompt. I'm going to be defining an executable, and if I knew what that executable was, I could come in here and I could go C:\dbase dbase5 /en / and then start typing in dbase. And you notice we have a whole bunch of exes over here to go ahead and run. Well, I don't want to do that. We're going to be going out to look for FoxPro. So I'm going to come over and hit my check mark. When this comes up, it's going to bring up, I've already got it pointing to the directory because it's really deep. I'm just going to go ahead and click the fox.exe. I'm going to hit open. And then when I'm happy with what I've got there, I'm going to go ahead and add the location. Now, at this point, I could add another drive if I want to. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go in there and let's pick the letter D. This time it's going to be a directory. Now, keep in mind, you can only have one executable per configuration. And I think that makes sense if you think about it. Because if I tried to, let's say, do dbase and FoxPro at the same time, well, that's two different sessions. Each configuration manages one session of DOS. So if we set it to point to FoxPro, it's going to do, that session's going to be FoxPro. If we say dbase, that section's going to be dbase, okay? But only one executable per configuration. We already have our executable with the FoxPro. This time I'm going to throw a directory in there, and I'm going to say c:\dbase, and I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to add the drive to the drive list, okay? Now, we have some pretty cool features in here, so you can click on the D, and let's say you wanted to make that the first one, or the default drive, which the default drive is going to start you out in that letter. I could do that, or I can move it back down and have it like it was. And if I really don't want that D in there, I can come over here to this little exit, click on it, and it's gone. Okay? So that's pretty straightforward. You come in, you define your drive, you define the directory, you define, add it to the list, and then you can go back, you can go prior, you can go forward, and it'll keep that each time. So let's go ahead and go to the next page. Now, in dbDOSv 2, one of the things that we've done is we set the default for the code page for your country code. We set it to 437 for America, the US, and because that's where the majority of our customers come from. But we also support 30 other countries total out of there, so you can do that. And you can pick that, and that'll go ahead and that'll add it into that configuration for you. The next thing, and this is going to be the area where people get a little bit less understanding, but it's not as bad as what it looks like. And, you know, once I show you how it works, I think you'll be like, oh, I see what that's doing. So what we have is we have a printer command, and that's what we're interested in. So I have a printer command builder to help you build the printer string that you need. So currently the default is something called lpt1 equals /sel. And that's the default. So what does that do? Well, lpt1 is really not, quote, lpt1 in the sense of a DOS session. In the old days, you would take your data and you would push it to a COM port or a parallel port. You would send that data to something, and that machine would interpret that data and execute, whether that be printing, whether that be doing some other thing through the actual communication port. And so LPT1 is really just a file buffer, and it gets pushed out like LPT1, but it has special processing. The SEL, the /SEL, is basically saying, I want to select my printout. So when you run it with SEL, it's going to pop up the Windows printer, and you can basically pick which printer you want to print to, and it's going to go ahead and do that. So how did I make it easier? Well, let's say we get rid of this line. You don't have to. You could have kept that line there. It's fine. But I want to go into standard print. Well, notice that in standard print, we have our printer port, which is LPT1. We have it selected with cell. So that was showing you that setup that we had up there. So if I come up here and click on this little update button, we're right back to where we were before we started. Okay. If I wanted to, I could click this down arrow key and I can go to COM2, let's say, and I can click on it and notice it goes to COM2. So it's very, very easy to build these screens. So let's talk a little bit about this. I want LPT1. Then after that, it's whether or not I want to select, how I want to select things. So I've got it on /SEL, but there's an option for the /SEL, and that is for you to use a printer, direct printer. So if you come in here and say SEL with the print, we actually have a drop-down list of all of your devices that you can print to. So I could come in here and hit the brother, WD, and if I wanted to, I could spool. I could do raw. Now raw, just keep in mind what raw is it's just sending that data out to LPT1 without any printer codes in it. It's just the raw text. So sometimes that happens with very certain outputs. The program will have a formatting process, and it automatically sends it out in the proper format. When you don't have raw turned on, it tries to interact and it gets all messed up. So we give you the ability to turn on raw to do that. We also have a /s, which is basically the silence. And we also have dummy. And dummy isn't really dumb. It's just the fact that you want to print out something, but you don't want to print it. You just want to put it in the files in the main directory. And that works very, very well. So when I'm done with this, I can also add raw to this just for the fun of it. I'm going to go ahead and update my print line. Okay. So now we have the Brother HL2270DW, and we also have it set to raw. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull that back, and I'm going to put it at cell 2. Okay. So I don't want raw anymore. But what cell 2 is going to do is cell 2 will basically put forward the printer dialog from the actual DB printer. And what that'll show you is you can email a report to somebody, you can produce a PDF for somebody, or you can print it and print it with the printer that you want to print with it. So it gives a nice little interface, and it allows you to pick what you want to do. It's kind of nice, kind of quick, kind of easy. So normally if we wanted to do that, you'd click on that, and then you'd update that, and as you can see, it updates that. Now, one of the things I'm really excited about is the advanced printer geometry. Now, inside of here, we have things like the page size. You want A4, you want A11, we have that in there. We have a font size. If you wanted to change your font, we include up to 30 different fonts for you to go ahead and use inside of your printouts. Some of those are good, some of them not so good. One of them's the Gothic or something like that. It's very difficult to read. But anyways, we do offer that ability so you can change the font that's used when printing your report. We also have the ability to use graphic lines to put things into landscape mode, and to also make sure that the printout looks modern, if we so desire. Now, we also have control over the left margin. We have control over the top margin. We also have control over the number of lines that gets written to a page. So I might say 76, 72, 66, whatever. And then we also have something called /fit. And what's cool about /fit is that it takes a number that you define. You want the printout to be 25% of the normal size. Put 25% in there. If you want it to be 125%, so you want to make it larger, put 125% in there. You can basically set the size of the printout with that functionality. It'll shrink and grow as you define from that standpoint. Now, one of the things I hope you've noticed that we don't have this turned on. All of these things are turned off. If we wanted to turn these on, we would go to the super advanced printing geometry and click this, and that would turn it on. Now, I could go also to other outputs. So I could go to a file, I could go to a PDF, I could go to a rich text format. Either way you want to do it. Again, you come up, you turn it on, you click on it, and you're on your way. The last thing I want to show with this is that we have Windows interaction. And that Windows interaction basically says that I can go out there and I'm going to push it to LPT1. You're always going to have to push it to something. Some LPT number or some COM number. And then after that, you're going to tell it what to do. So we have a flyby helpline that basically says, I'm going to go to the Windows directory, System32, and there's a print command inside of there. I'm going to pass it with a /D for LPT1, 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 and I want to print out this report, this LPT1.ASC. And what that'll do is that will automatically put that and print it out using that print functionality built into Windows. I could take this and do the exact same thing and put it into Notepad or into Microsoft Word. Actually, we worked with one of our customers who has an insurance agency, and he basically uses it to produce PDFs and then to put it in the right locations and all that kind of stuff with the interaction in Windows. So he actually has it set up to streamline how his work process goes. So once you have your screen set up, once you have your print set up, then I'm going to go ahead and just hit on this because I'm not planning on printing out anything because I've already killed a couple of trees testing. But when I'm done with it, I'm going to go ahead and hit the word finished. It's going to show me 100% down here on a little progress bar. And it's going to say, hey, Mike, your configuration was created. And boom, it comes back to our screen that we had before. Now, I'm going to go ahead and hit the run button. Let's make sure that this thing works. And as you can tell, it flashed very, very quickly. And it went ahead. I'm going to just move this into us. Moved very quickly right into it. Now, here's something that you got to think about. You're looking at this screen on a 4K monitor. And look how clean, clear, and concise that is. That is just gorgeous. So anyways, so now that we have this, we can come up here and I'm going to go ahead and hit the file and we're going to quit. Now notice it didn't actually quit. It actually put the process into the thing. So I could do a dir. I could do any of the things that we would do with DOS. And then if I'm done with it, I can just hit the exit. Pretty cool. So we just created a configuration. If we create a configuration for a command configuration, it's the same steps. It's the same everything. But let's say that I want FoxPro 2.6 to have a shortcut. And I want to be able to put that shortcut on the desktop. Well, I can do that. Select the one you want to work with. Select the configuration you want to work with. Click the edit. Notice there's the FoxPro. There's all my stuff. Then I can go next. There's my drive. I go next. There's my printer. But this time I want to create a desktop shortcut down here. And I want to, or not exit, on the output on it. Okay? And then I just say update. It goes ahead and updates it. Now, what happened? So it brings it over into the process. And so then, now I'll just click on Kathy just to do it real quickly. And you'll notice that we have the system come up. So the shortcut was executed as expected. And we are ready to go from there. So that gives you kind of the quick overview of how to use the software. There's still two more things that we got to talk about. One is we got to talk about the delete key. Sometimes you're going to get in there and you're not going to want to deal with it. You're going to want to hit the delete key. Okay? And I'm going to hit the delete key. It's going to come up and says, hey, you decided to delete the dbDOS configuration. Are you sure? And I am. The next thing it's going to ask you to do is, hey, you made a shortcut. Could you go ahead and put that in the trash and delete it? And I'm going to say yes for that. So I went ahead. Kathy's now gone. And so the FoxPro is now gone. And so now I'm going to take the FoxPro and put it into the trash can. And it is now gone from that situation. So as you can see, works really great from that standpoint. Let's go in here real quickly. I'm going to do a new. We'll do that FoxPro really quick again. This time I'm not going to include any extra stuff. I'm just going to go out here and hit C. I'm going to hit the little check mark. You're going to see how fast we can actually put this together. I'm going to hit that. I'm going to hit the add drive to list. We're going to go next. We're going to leave everything there. We're going to hit finished. It's done. Click on this. We hit the run. And we're back in business like we said before. So as you can see, once you get used to it, it's a very, very fast machine. So we'll go ahead and quit out of there. And we'll exit. Now, let's say that I wanted it to exit after it got done with FoxPro 6. Well, one of the things that we're going to talk about now is the text configuration. The text configuration comes up with a warning. It basically says, hey, this is a serious thing. You're going to be messing with the actual configuration files. Make sure you know what you're doing. And if you don't, give dbase a call. Most of the time, 99% of the time, people are actually giving us a call. We're talking to them. We're walking them through the steps to do this, or we're telling them what to do on another set. And so when we do that, we can come into here and say, okay. And then what it's going to do, it's going to print out, or it's going to bring out, I should say. It's going to bring out the configurations. Notice everything's shut off. I can't do anything in here. I can't touch anything. All I can do is the help and the test configurations. I can come out, look at my auto exec. I can come into here real quickly. Afterwards, I can say, you know what? I want to go ahead and I want to hit the exit. Okay. And I have a save button. I also have the abort button. It works the exact same way. I hit the abort button, boom, I'm gone. Now, the other thing that we've added to this, and this is something that most people will appreciate, a lot of times when we're dealing with somebody with a complex configuration, the first thing we ask them for is, hey, can you give us a copy of your auto exec and your config.txt? And, you know, that takes them a little bit of time to figure out that. Now, all you do is copy to clipboard and send an email. And it's going to come right to DBase from us. Now, you have to have an email client on the machine that you're on, but most people have an email driver on their situation, and you can go ahead and do that. So if I come in here, copy this to clipboard, click the email here in a second, it's going to take maybe a little bit because I don't think I had my process set up as far as the thing, but as you can see there, it brings it up and it's ready to go. So I don't want to save that, and it's back. So you click one button, boom, that gets sent to us. We can then look at it, and it makes just life a lot easier for us. Now, after that, I'm going to want to go ahead and save. So I'm going to go ahead and save it. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to come in and I want to run Fox Pro again. There it is. I'll move this back down for you. Now, when we hit the file and we hit the quit, it should automatically quit out for us because we have that exit on there. So that's how that piece works. Now, again, text config, you're going to probably be talking to us. The help is going to be what you're hearing me do right now. This is the walkthrough of the product. So really quickly, review, command line configurations, executable configurations, the run. Make sure you pick all the options for the printer. Make sure you say you want a shortcut or you don't want a shortcut. Make sure that you understand the new, the edit, which is the same as new except it's just filled in for you, the delete, and then, like I said, the text config, you're going to be talking to us. So basically, you're going to come in, click on it. Now, the one thing I always like to end with is a little Zork. If those people who have ever run a DOS program before in their life, they probably had Zork at some time in the 80s. And with that, you can come into here. I have a copy of it, and I can go ahead and hit the run button. And as you can see, we are now at the little white house, and we're ready to continue to play Zork if we so desire. So that just gives you a quick idea of how you can use dbDOSv2 to the greatest extent. And we think the interface is phenomenal. We think it's quick. We think it's easy. We think that everybody should be able to pick this up quickly. Here's another nice thing. If you have dbDOSv1, all your configurations are going to come forward. You're going to have there's no problems with it. You're not even going to have to do anything. Your configurations will just show up and you'll be able to start running them and working with them and doing that. Now, what most people we expect is going to do, they're going to go and play with the printing and all that kind of stuff. So they're going to go into edit their config and then might make sure that they get that print line just like it's supposed to be for whatever they're looking for. So hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully it's a great product. You're going to have a great experience with it. Like I said, we really, really enjoy it. We want to thank you for supporting DBase. Thank you for supporting dbDOSv2. I hope you have a great day, great night, great wherever. Thank you very much.